All right, the Detroit Lions got a scheduling break. I know it's the hardest schedule in the NFL this year. I get that, totally get that it's the hardest schedule, and I know that it's heavy off in the front end of it. You got 2 divisional games followed by 2 playoff teams. 2 out of the 3 next opponents are playoff teams. 3 out of the first 5 opponents are playoff teams. But there were some things that I was thinking about, and I was thinking about the Frank Ragnow retirement. I was thinking about the interior offensive line and the confidence that I have in the interior offensive line. But even more than that, I went back and I started looking at what the schedule has. And there could be some things that end up being pretty helpful for us. Sure, later in the year, we'll have to play the Chiefs. I get that. Just shortly after this, we'll have to play the Bucks. We'll play and Todd Bowles and his blitzing defense, and Brian Flores and the Vikings and their aggressive blitzing defense. So we have some of those difficult things, but that's week 6 through 9. Week 1 through 5, we have very interesting things. So let me ask you this question: what's your confidence level of our offensive line as a whole? And I'm not just talking interior offensive line. I'm talking about as a whole going into the year with the Frank Ragnow retirement. We used to talk about our big 3 on the offensive line: Decker, Ragnow, and Sewell. And now it's not a big 3 anymore. So what is the confidence? First, let me remind you of what this interior job will look like and the depth at it. Tackle spots, they're good. They're set. They're ready to go. All right? The other 3 interior jobs will be likely Christian Mahogany, Tate Ratledge, and Graham Glasgow. Okay? That's not bad. All right? Tristan Colon is expected to battle for starting roles as well that we got. We got him in free agency. We did a video on him. I'm sure you can go back and find it. All right? Depth options are guys like Coyote Iwasika. We still have him. Muti, Frazier, Kingsley Agakwan, Michael Neese, Colby Sorsdahl. You know, I remember when our depth was terrible. It's not terrible anymore. There's a ton of depth on the interior of the offensive line. There are players that have made this team that will get cut. It's really simple. And so the depth's there. So I want to talk about who we have. I'll give you some stats, and I'll show you the roster. All right, first week, I'm going to go through the first 5 weeks, and I'm going to tell you why I think this isn't too bad when you look simply at especially the interior offensive line. Week 1, we have the Green Bay Packers. The best player on this defensive line is Kenny Clark. All right, and Kenny Clark had a down year last year. He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 during the year. All right, during this season, he'll be old 29 when we play him. And you can see he's starting to taper off a little bit. He's no longer, he hasn't in the last 3 years been that dominant force as a defensive interior lineman. So yes, I do believe he has been that in the past, but he's not anymore. So when you look at week 1 of the season, it's not bad when it comes to, hey, this offensive line has to figure it out. That's pretty good. Week 2, we play the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears had a pretty good defense last year, but their head coach, when he left, when he got fired, the defense went downhill very quickly. All right, the Chicago Bears went out. They're like, oh, we'll get Grady Jarrett. That's going to solve everything. Once again, he has not been a force in the middle since pre-COVID or the year of COVID. Since then, it hasn't been great. He's 32 years old. How much does he have left in the tank? Last year was his worst year of his NFL career. Then you look at Gervon Dexter Sr. The Bears fans love him. I don't. I think he's pretty simple in what he does and not a great interior defensive lineman. So first 2 weeks as our interior offensive line is getting together, not so bad on the interior. But let's talk about not just looking at the lineup. Let's actually look at what this is. Their defensive success rate for the Green Bay Packers was 18th in the NFL this past year. That's what it was. All right? That's what it was. With the Chicago Bears, it was 21st. It wasn't great. Their pressure rate was 8th. Their blitz rate was 16th. With the Packers, their blitz rate was 29th. Very straightforward. Jeff Hafley's the defensive coordinator that's going to be coming back in again. I would expect them to try and blitz more on us this year because we carved apart the Packer defense last year. What about week 3? Week 3, we get the Baltimore Ravens. All right, so here's the thing. First, you think the Ravens, and you think we could be in trouble because they have Matabuke. Here's the thing about Matabuke. In 2023, he had a ton of sacks and signed a massive contract. But outside of that season where he got a bunch of sacks, I can say it. I promise I can say it. All right. Outside of that year, not a great player. Not that good. Dude balled out in a contract year. Outside of that, there's nothing to write home about on this defense. Travis Jones is a big-bodied interior defensive lineman that knows guard that the Ravens love to play. He does his job effectively, but it's not going to be a problem when it comes to passing. And then you've got Broderick Washington, who, quite frankly, has not been great. So interior, they're not wonderful. When you look overall at what their defense has done, the Ravens' defensive success rate was really good, but their pressure rate on the quarterback was 21st in the NFL, a bottom third team in the NFL. Their blitz rate was 30th in the NFL, 30th. So you have teams that so far are 29th, 16th, and 30th in blitz rate. 2 of them are bringing back the same defensive coordinator, the 2 guys that they didn't blitz much. So that is one of the biggest struggles that you usually have when you talk about a young offensive lineman or a new core that's trying to gel together. All right, the next game, the 4th game, I'm going to go through 5 games here, all right, is against what you would originally be like, oh no, the Cleveland Browns. Here's the good news on that. All right, the Cleveland Browns have good edge rushers. They did get Graham. All right, they did get Mason Graham in the middle with, I believe, the 4th overall pick, or maybe they traded. Yeah, they traded back. They ended up with the 4th, all that good stuff. They go Mason Graham. He's a great player. He's a great player, but he's also a rookie. So there's not a lot going on in the middle. Myles Garrett is going to line up over Decker, or he's going to line up over Sewell. That's the way that's going to go. And then for our final opponent, I put out here the Ravens again. That's on me. That's definitely not who it is. All right, our final opponent is the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals don't have it. They have Hendrickson, but even with Hendrickson, their pressure rate was 24th in the NFL last year. Their blitz rate was 25th. So basically what we're looking at is we're looking at a bunch of teams that don't blitz a lot, and they don't have great interior defenders. That is a break that is fantastic to get this new interior defensive or offensive line ready to go for the Detroit Lions. They caught a break when it comes to the first 5 games. Even though the first 5 games aren't easy as a team, as far as our weak spot, the interior offensive line, or what I don't believe will be a weak spot, I think it'll still be just fine. But originally you can here like, okay, maybe it might be a little weak because they're gelling, they're trying to mesh together. Not only that, we have the Hall of Fame game, so those guys will get more time on field together in practice for the preseason because they get a whole extra week. All right, hope you enjoyed the videos. These are the kind of things that we like to look at here, these things that not many people are talking about. Yeah, hey, have a good 4th. I'm sure I'll say that on many videos. Have fun with family, friends, and we'll see you on the next one.